We are back. We are so back. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Angle Fantasy Basketball Podcast. We are very excited to be here today. We have lots of big updates, news to go over. But before I do that, I just want to say sorry that we've been gone for a little bit. We actually wanted to bring a Dynasty rank update to you guys earlier on, maybe in late April. But we had a few things happen. Just as we were about to release our Dynasty rank list, Dame tore his Achilles, and we were not comfortable releasing this list with the place that Dame was located at. In addition to that, shortly following that injury, we had members of us, between us three here, going out of the country. One of us got married. There was a whole lot of things going on for this month, but we are now back here to talk Dynasty. Our Dynasty rank update is ready to go. So before we start talking more about that, I want to introduce the other two analysts here at Angle. First of all, our East Coast Angle analyst, Braxton. How are you today, good sir? Good to see you again.
Really good, man. And you left out probably the most impactful injury of Jason Tatum that would have
Yes.
immediately outdated our rankings. So that kind of played a factor as well. And kind of glad we waited on that. But yeah, really excited to kind of get back into the swing of things here and excited to talk basketball once again with you guys.
Yes, we had one Achilles tear, which caused us to reset our rankings. And as we were kind of redoing them and waiting for us three to be back together, there was another Achilles tear that happened with Jason Tatum. So we'll talk a little bit about him before we fully dive into this list here, because we do have someone that took his spot within our Dynasty rankings. But of course, next up, my close friend, Mitchell. How are you today, sir?
Doing really well back in the States. I just visited Japan and it was the best vacation I could have asked for. So now with the swing of things, ready to take on the 2025 NBA draft and provide everyone, fantasy basketball content with both of you guys. So let's do it.
Okay, so big announcement. We have officially started our Patreon. Now, this is something we've wanted to do since we first started Angle a couple of years ago. And one thing that I will say is we are not going to make any changes to the free content that we have always put out to you guys. There will always be free Dynasty Rookie Big Boards, a few free rank updates per year, as well as plenty of podcasts and videos. What this Patreon represents is access to more Dynasty rank updates. We're going to add in at least 3 to 4 more rank updates per year that our Patreon members will have access to. And this is also going to feature additional bonus podcasts and videos that only the Patreon will have access to. So for example, on our Patreon, our new podcast episode is going to be us covering the Dynasty rank placement of the top 14 players from this class. So our new rookie big board is out at this moment. You can go check it out on our website, anglefantasybasketball.wordpress.com. The top 14 of that big board is ranked within our newest rank update. So if you want to see where they're at, and if you want to see a more in-depth discussion of why we place them where they're at and what some of the names in their range are like, then definitely make sure to join our Patreon. We will link that in the description down below. The free access to this Dynasty rank update, we will put it out maybe a day or two before the actual NBA draft happens, which is later this month on the 25th. For starters, we're going to discuss somebody in the top 5. So like I alluded to earlier, Jason Tatum tore his Achilles. He was our stapled number 5 guy right behind the top 4 guys who, still remain in the top 4. There is no changes there. With that Achilles tear with Tatum, he moved down a little bit. And I'll just say as a disclaimer, please don't trade Tatum for nothing. Now, if you want to give up on 35-year-old Damian Lillard, who just tore his Achilles, then we're not going to really stop you from there, but please don't do that with Tatum. He's still in his athletic prime. Achilles injuries and the science behind it has come a long way, so please don't sell him for a bag of chips. Use him to tank, do whatever you got to do, but make sure you don't take a total loss with this Jason Tatum injury. So let's get started on our list here. So here we are with our June 2025 Dynasty rank update. So now we're going to talk about our new number 5 overall. He rose up 1 spot. That's going to be Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we're talking about Cade right now. I think ever since the launch of Angle, I've had him in the top 10. I know there were differing opinions, and for good reason, right? He was putting up great numbers on a bad team. But when you look at Cade, he's really in that jumbo guard forward kind of mold, similar to Luca and LeBron. And after Detroit's recent success, right, after being the worst team in the league and now playing in the playoffs, he really reaffirmed his spot in the top 10. I mean, among consensus between the three of us in our dynasty ranks. And a little bit about Caden statistics wise, he was a top 10 player in -1 ranks when removing his worst category in turnovers, and he was top 24 in the season. So he's going to provide you with those points, those rebounds, those assists as a point guard. He had some pretty good block numbers that raised over the season. And he's been improving his field goal percentage too and efficiency as he's kind of been accustomed to the NBA game. And ever since Detroit added those shooters in Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr., his efficiency has spiked. So looking forward, Cade is now at that number 5 spot, and I don't see any reason where he may fall off. However, there's a new rookie in this upcoming class that may challenge him for that number 5 spot throughout the year. But Cade Cunningham is safely in our top 10 now.
Absolutely, yes. Very, very good to see him. I felt like he established himself as number 6, but now with Tatum gone, moving up into the top 5, pretty impressive. So let's move along. Somebody who is in our top 15 now. He moved up 6 spots to number 14, which is going to be the big bodega, Karl-Anthony Towns. So I'm well aware how he's got some blame for the Knicks Eastern Conference Finals loss, but being exposed in a playoff environment really doesn't matter to us much in fantasy as we play exclusively in the regular season. And sometimes in Dynasty, people are tempted to let what happened in the playoffs dictate how they're valuing a specific player, let's say in a trade or in a startup draft. And that's just really a habit that Dynasty managers should not be doing, because obviously in the playoffs, things are magnified. So we're really magnifying it and looking at problems with Karl-Anthony Towns. So it might make you, as a Dynasty manager, think that cat's not that good. But you shouldn't be thinking that way, because the playoffs does not matter to us. So I still believe Cat is actually underrated as a Dynasty asset. He finished 6th overall on the year for 9 categories. He's under 30 years old, still in his athletic prime, which I believe goes from age 27 to 32. He had a very efficient shooting season, and he truly doesn't hurt anywhere besides turnovers, which is something we don't really care about. So he can fit really in any build you're going for. I'm sure he is elite in points leagues too. And he was 2nd overall in rebounds per game this year behind Sabonis. Cat plus Tom Thibodeau is a winning formula for fantasy teams. He will continue to play heavy minutes moving forward. And at least for next season, the Knicks should largely run it back with the same team. So I expect much of the same from Cat, another top 10 season incoming. Okay, so moving on from Cat to another product of Kentucky. He actually dropped a little bit out of the top 30. So now coming in at number 34, moving down 8 spots, is De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox is dropping down for a couple reasons. One, there's going to be a new point guard in town by the name of Dylan Harper, as rumored if the Spurs, rumored to keep the pick. And another reason is that he's in San Antonio now. So in San Antonio, De'Aaron Fox has only averaged 19.7 points, a huge dip from his numbers with the Kings, where he averaged over 25 points per game. His assists spiked up, but not a real marginal amount, less than 1 assist a game. And he's also losing his rebound numbers and his steals numbers. So, some of the points are of a concern, especially with Fox. He kind of thought of him as like an anchor at that spot when he was in Sacramento, scoring almost 30 points per game. He was the clutch player of the year 2 years ago. He was seen as the guy that they want the ball in the clutch. But now with San Antonio having so many different offensive options where it's a little bit more dispersed in terms of who gets the touches, he's not going to be that in-game finisher. It's going to be Victor Wembanyama. Also, the poor spacing with the Spurs has hurt his efficiency. Adding potentially Dylan Harper into the starting lineup with a 3 guard lineup with Castle, Fox, and Harper, it's not really going to open up the floor where Fox really does the most of his damage inside the paint. So it gives me some reason to kind of fade Fox moving forward, although he is still firmly in the top 40 for me just because of his star potential that he does have. But just keep it into consideration as, the San Antonio Spurs look to develop Dylan Harper as their, future point guard. Fox is someone that I don't have as much long-term trust moving forward with the San Antonio Spurs.
Very good. Okay, so we're just going to move down one spot here. This is arguably the most popular name in fantasy and dynasty for this past season. Number 35 moved up 4 spots. Dyson Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, this guy just finished 38th overall in 9 category while shooting under 60% from the line. And I don't know how you guys don't have him higher. Similar to how Wemby can win you blocks, Dyson Daniels can and will win you steals almost entirely by himself. It really was not out of the norm to see him rack up a 6 steal game last year. He shot 34% from three, and that free throw was a career low, although he still was only taking 2 per game, even with this increased usage. And the reason I bring up the percentage from three is that that would indicate that he can get that free throw percentage up if he's able to make the strides in that area. So if he's able to get it back up, like I said, to around 65% where he had it the season before, he could finish around 20th or so very easily. I also will note that if you're punting free throw, he finished 17th on the year last year, and that's not like a fake 9 category 17th. This guy is a beast. He's such a fun player to own. Fits on literally just about any build type you can think of. I don't think they'll move Trey or anything, as it's been rumored for the past like 3 years now. But if somehow the ball ends up in Dyson's hands more on a nightly basis, he'll be a triple double threat. And who's to say which 3 categories it'll be? So really excited about Dyson both now and moving forward.
Okay, now that's going to take us to a big man we had a ton of questions about throughout the entirety of most of last year, as there was just such a wide range of opinions on the way he was playing and kind of just the ups and downs and the trajectories of his career. But he ended last year very positively. Moving up 13 spots to number 70 overall is Jalen Duren.
Yeah, Jalen Duren really turned his season around. Beginning of the year, he was one of the worst defenders. He had a lack of attention with his peripherals. He would miscommunicate different reads and whatnot. But, you know, he's answered the call and any question marks on his defensive effort by finishing in the top 10 in defensive rating in the season. And he's been a huge part of Detroit's defensive identity, that bruising type of style. He's getting boards, he's blocking shots now. And there was also a time where his offensive aggression was in question as well, where he'd only shoot 3 to 4 times a game in the first couple months of the season. He's really asserted himself as Cade Cunningham's lob threat, and he's one of the best 1-2 punches in the NBA, and he's only 21 years of age coming into his third season. So, Jalen Duren is going to be a beast moving forward. He's, I don't know, he's just going to be a great player, and he's a great young foundational piece for Detroit for many years to come.
Mitch, do you have any concern about the slight dip in minutes or like that minutes distribution between him and Isaiah Stewart?
Isaiah Stewart, no, I really don't. Ever since they addressed the shooting concerns, uh, Jalen Duren, okay, so with Jalen Duren, I think it's very great how they're not playing together anymore in space. So even though the minutes are kind of in a timeshare where Jalen Duren's getting what, 28 minutes a game, Stu's
26
getting
now.
like 26. Okay, I mean, earlier in the year, it was probably even worse. So
Yeah.
he's progressing as soon as, Detroit's getting their defensive and offensive identities. So, the time block, I'm not really too concerned. He's not someone who needs a lot of minutes to rack up stats. Isaiah Stewart isn't a great long-term piece, in my opinion. So no concerns at all.
Very good. Okay, now let's move on to another big man who is ranked just below Duren. He dropped a bit in our rankings. Number 71, moving down 9 spots, is Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, I mean, I clearly, and you can see on the ranks here with you guys both having him at 60 and me having him at 95, I'm clearly a lot lower on him than both of you. It's really just based around this illness that he has. It's really concerning to me. He did have the top 35 finish, but the injury problems continue to persist. And yeah, I'm legitimately concerned about his health. I guess in regards to like his knees and stuff, but also, those scary symptoms that were limiting his availability during even the playoffs. So, who's to say that this is resolved by the beginning of next season? He's obviously a potential benefactor from the Tatum injury, but these kind of peripheral issues need to get sorted out first. We all know what he is and what he can bring, and what the potential is in terms of his fantasy value and why that skill set is so valuable. But the concerns are as high as ever. I don't think he's done anything. I mean, those concerns were there going into last season as well, and I don't think he did anything to kind of dispel those concerns or make him seem more reliable. So that's my thought there.
Very good. All right. So we're going to continue the trend of talking about some big men here. We're going to move to number 75, moving up 26 spots, breaking into our top 100 pretty strongly here. And that's going to be Ivica Zubac. So Zubac, every time I think about him, it's just this is the man the Lakers traded to the Clippers for a 3-month rental of Mike Muscala. And it drives me absolutely insane every single time that I think about it. I hated the trade when it happened, and I hate it even more this present day. But, all of that aside, Zubac, again, a very strong leap into the top 100 with an amazing top 30 performance this past regular season in 9 categories. So we said from the preseason last year, we had high hopes for Zubac to pick up a bigger scoring load due to Paul George and Russell Westbrook leaving, Kawhi beginning the season hurt, and the Clippers bringing in very few reinforcements. I mean, at least not many guys who are going to take from the scoring load. Like we weren't really concerned with Derek Jones Jr. having a huge uptick in what he's going to do scoring wise. So Zubac was a very big target for us, and he paid off. Like he was one of the biggest payoffs for people in fantasy drafts last year. So I will say his season last year was real. He is entering his physical prime, finishing the season at 28 years old. He posted career highs in minutes, points, rebounds, and assists. He looked better than ever. I saw him dunk on Wembanyama in person. Just great stuff all around from Zubac. A strong hold and or buy in Dynasty. Okay, moving on to our next one. This is a pretty big fall for somebody who is within the top 100. And this is kind of a bit of a flip story from how, Braxton was an outlier in ranking Kristaps a lot lower than the other two of us. I was an outlier in ranking Lauri Markkanen a lot lower than the other two of you. So Lauri Markkanen dropped down 27 spots, and he now ranks at number 88 overall. So I'm just so over it with this guy. I actually kicked him out of my top 100. Feel free to call that an overreaction if you want, but just the reliability of Lauri is so low. His talent is not enough to fix it. Not once has this man hit 70 games in a season in his career. Of his 8 seasons, he has played 65 games twice. He played below 60 games in more of half of the seasons he's been around. He seems perfectly content with stat stuffing on shitty teams and seemingly disappearing from the game altogether as soon as we hit February. I think he has snatched the title of the best job in the NBA away from Jeremy Grant, as Lauri is now cleaning up $40+ million per year to be a flake. So not to mention last year, a large dip in scoring and rebounding, which was really his primary use for us in fantasy. So yeah, I would just stay away from Lauri Markkanen if I were you.
With Lauri too, I just don't have confidence in the Jazz turning it around in the next couple of years. For Lauri to be playing in those competitive months, pushing for a playoff spot. So I thought I was low on Lauri too, dropping him from like 50 to around 80. But I believe your concerns are very justified with Markkanen. He's not very reliable, and he's not someone I'm looking to draft in any of my leagues.
That's right. That's right. So now we're going to move just outside of the top 100 here. someone who really redeemed himself at the end of last year, like the second half of the season. Moving up 24 spots to number 106 is going to be Brandin Podziemski.
Yeah, Brandin Podziemski had a real shaky start to the year. He was, I believe, like in the bottom 10th percentile of three-point shots, three-point percentage, and also drives at the rim. However, ever since that Jimmy Butler trade, he's really opened up his game. Jimmy Butler is attracting the defensive attention where he's opening up shots for Podziemski to have a more efficient shot selection. And Jimmy has also been a great mentor to Podziemski. He's instilled an aggressive mindset for Podziemski when Curry's off the floor, encouraging him to search for a shot, where the Warriors need a third scoring option in the future, where Kuminga was supposed to be that type of player, but he's likely going to be moved in the offseason. So Podziemski, just to cap it off, was top 80 in the last month of the fantasy season, post All-Star break when Jimmy Butler joined the team, turning into that 15-5-5 guy that we had hoped. And he's also shooting threes at a higher volume. So Podziemski is a very exciting, uh, I want to say like a budget triple double threat, not really a triple double threat, but like a half of a triple double threat where he's going to get you those re out of position rebounds. He's going to get you a good amount of assists for someone who's kind of like that tweener type of guard. And he's also going to provide you some pretty good scoring punch as well from a guy that's, emerging from an aging team. So Podziemski is a very exciting asset to have, especially since the Warriors are looking into their next chapter.
A massive triple single threat, Mitch. I'll give you that for sure.
All right. So let's move on to someone else very exciting, especially for next year. Moving up 16 spots to number 118, that is Payton Pritchard.
Yeah, I was a skeptic early last season, I'll admit. But Pritchard just had a top 100 finish. He's primed for an increase of usage and is locked in on this Boston team. And he still doesn't get the respect I think he deserves. If those assists tick up to maybe five, and by the way, he averaged 3.5 last season, you've got a legitimate top 50 guy. Those low turnovers is definitely a big part of it in terms of his 9 category ranking. And if you looked at the box scores last year, went game by game, you'd see him disappear at times, while other nights he'd just go absolutely insane. So it truly was like, even in redraft, I mean, he was ranked inside the top 100, but like some nights he wasn't really doing anything for you. And for that reason, pending on kind of what Boston does this year, I don't know if they bring in somebody. I know there's like Drew Holiday trade rumors. I'm not really sure how they'd pull off bringing somebody in that's going to take usage away from Pritchard. I do think it's a decently likely scenario that they run it back minus Tatum. But like I said, I don't hate it as a potential sell high if you're banking on that. I do think he should be ranked a little higher though than where you guys have him. I don't know. But I also do get the kind of variance night to night being a concern for him. So
If anything, you're a little early on this one in a good way. Like having him already on the bottom outskirts or bottom portion of the top 100, like if you think about the biggest benefactor to Tatum being out, like obviously there's going to be a little usage soaked up by the stars, Jalen Brown, Derek White, Porzingis, Drew Holiday, sure. But that scoring load that's missing has to come from somewhere. And I think that main benefactor pretty much almost has to be Pritchard. So this time in November or February, we could easily be saying, yeah, staple, top 100 asset, something like that. So I think, might just be a little early on this in a good way because it is going to come to fruition. This is going to be a redraft favorite for everybody next year because that usage is coming. In addition to being a salary league, probably elite asset next year, being on below $10 million a year for what he's about to do. So yes, good things in the future coming from Payton Pritchard.
I mean, Pritchard got you Paolo Banchero as the main trade piece, didn't he?
That's right. That's right. He got me a fantasy title 2 years ago by going absolutely insane when Jalen Brown was out, and then was a apparently a centerpiece in getting Paulo Banchero. So
I mean,
yeah,
that's the sell high window I was talking about, though. It doesn't get much more sell. I don't even like Bancaro, and I mean, it doesn't get much more sell high than that. I mean, obviously, you're factoring in the salary within this specific context, but I do think there is some opportunity to cash in if you think there is some concern if they bring in somebody, or you think he's overvalued. So.
that's right. Speaking of cashing in, selling high, let's talk about our next guy moving up 78 spots to number 155, Quentin Grimes. So this one is honestly like tough to judge. So from the time of the trade, remember he started the year on Dallas and was traded to Philadelphia on February 4th. So from February 4th and onwards, Grimes ranked inside the top 60 of 9cat. 33 minutes a night, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals per game. Elite. Excellent stuff. Many in the Dynasty community like Grimes a lot and have been waiting for some sort of breakout to happen for a while now. But that top 60 rank is fantastic, but that came on a severely depleted 76er squad that seemingly waved the white flag on the season as early as January. So if we look at Grimes' time in Dallas, he was outside the top 200 and put up 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists on 22 minutes per night. So with the context involved, despite the breakout, we couldn't put him in the top 100 just yet. He may likely get a big payday this offseason for his performance. And if he does sustain a version of himself, maybe in between the Philly and Dallas version, then surely his rank is going to rise a bit in one of our in-season updates. But if you want to take the upside gamble on him, I can see it be worth it because many in the Dynasty community, like I said, including myself, do like Grimes. Just don't pay for him as if he is already a top 100 asset, as you may get burned on doing a deal like that.
One little point on Grimes. A lot of the draft rumors are circulating that they're going to be the Philadelphia 76ers are looking in uh, to draft a similar player in Grimes. It's like a Trey Johnson type, an Ace Bailey type, and even more a little bit more stable in a guy like a Con Knipple. All two to three position players. So it gives me a little bit of concern when acquiring a Quentin Grimes in hopes of a top 100 dynasty asset, knowing that a top three pick is heading in Philadelphia's way, especially if they don't draft a big man to back up Joel Embiid.
Right. So that complicates the things going back to Philly because I do believe he's an unrestricted free agent right now. But if he goes elsewhere, that can complicate things too. If he's going to another different stacked roster, obviously, pretty much any roster he goes to is not going to be the state of the roster that Philadelphia was in early February. So those numbers that he put in the second half of last year are going to dip. The real question is how much? What's the landing spot going to be? So I think, in that 150 range is a kind of a safe spot to keep him at for now until we see where he does eventually end up at, because that's going to be very important. But one player where we did see where he ended up in a new team during the middle of this season, same to how Grimes did, moving down 41 spots to number 186, Kyle Kuzma.
I don't think anybody thought he was gonna do what he did in Washington, in Milwaukee, but I mean, this is much worse than anticipated. After the trade deadline, he was 309 in 9 category, and it's really hard to rank outside the top 300 when you're putting up like actual stats. Like you have to be like actively harmful. He wasn't taking as many shots, so his field goal percentage, or his field goal percentage, wasn't as harmful, and on some nights was even more efficient. But he certainly didn't help you anywhere else. 14, 5, and 2 assists, and 66% from the line. He had nights where he'd disappear. His entire appeal was those out of position assists and the high scoring ceiling. But on an actual competitive team where they just don't let him do whatever he wants, he's not nearly as interesting. Depending on what Milwaukee does while Dame is injured, it is possible he ticks kind of back up in those counting stats. But at best, it's a much worse version of Paolo. And Paolo is not the best 9 category guy, as we know, to begin with. So if you're in one of those weird like triple punt with like percentages and turnovers, okay, sure, pair him with Paolo, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett and like Russell Westbrook, whatever, just rack counting stats. But if you're looking to win like any kind of efficiency stats or steals or blocks, then no, thank you. He's just, I'm utterly disappointed, I think.
Disappointment indeed. Especially, I mean, I'm glad I got out of that as early as I did in the Angle Dynasty League. I drafted him, but got out of that pretty quickly, luckily.
Yeah.
So that was he's definitely an interesting case from last year. But now we're going to start moving into our more deep league guys. So we are avid 30 team players, or 30 team dynasty players. And so we always want to cater to our fellow 30 team dynasty maniacs out there. So we're going to go to number 255 right now. Moving up 46 spots is going to be a guy who came in return for the Kyle Kuzma package, and that is AJ Johnson. So there comes times where we need to admit we were wrong, and this is one of those times. Last year, around this time, we were not fans at all of AJ during the pre-draft process. And once we saw him go to a Doc Rivers team, he seemed obviously destined to fail. The best thing that could have happened to prevent that is AJ not only getting traded away from the hellhole of playing for Doc Rivers as a young player, but he now finds himself on the rebuilding Wizards. So obviously the Wizards actually gave him a longer leash to show what he can do. And to be honest, I liked a bit of what I saw. So the Wizards are forming a good defensive identity, mainly Sar, Keyshawn George, and Bilal. But aside from Poole and maybe Chris Middleton, they seriously lack scoring punch, especially off the bench. So AJ is a pretty good fit to fill that void. Sort of similar, maybe a lighter version of how Trey Mann going to Charlotte fulfilled something that they always needed. The AJ is kind of represents a lighter version of that. So the shooting percentage was rough, which is always expected of rookie guys or rookie guards. But we legit thought this guy wouldn't accomplish anything in the NBA when he was drafted, and he showed some serious life, 9 points per game, 3 assists per game, shooting 86% from the line. So as a deep league dynasty buy, I do like AJ Johnson as one of those. Moving down 3 spots, he rose up 19 places, Quinten Post.
Yeah, so Quinten Post, I actually think he's really good, you guys. He's fully outplayed Trace Jackson Davis at this point. And I don't know. I'm not going to say he's going to be the starting center next year, but there's a non-zero chance they go in with him as the starting center next season. It's not necessarily translating to 9 category value yet, but I just love him as a center. You stick on like a guard-heavy team with his contribution from behind the arc. And the fact that he doesn't hurt you much of anywhere else, he's not really turning the ball over. His percentages are fine. I mean, he's shooting about 45% from the field, which is not great for a big man, but he's not taking enough shots for it to be super harmful, which is something I'll continue to preach. Don't look at just the percentage, right? But look at how many shots they're taking. And then from the three-point line, he shoots over 40%. He's an actual rotation player. He's not somebody that's just filling in due to injury, and he can hold his own out there on defense. And I think when you're getting this deep, you can't ask for much more in terms of a fantasy asset. So I love him as a really low-end guy, and I think there's potential for more.
Yeah, I mean, Kevon Looney is going to leave. He's a free agent. They got rid of Wiggins. So, room is opening up in the front court rotation for Golden State. I know at least last year, that was something I tried to stay away from because Kerr was crazy with those rotations, but there is less bodies present within that rotation at this moment in time. So interesting to see what they will do this offseason. But let's round this out now, talking about another rookie big man from last year's class. He rose up 25 spots to number 261. Mitch, tell us about Adem Bona.
Yeah, Andrew. So last year when we were building out our draft board, being in Southern California, we're a little bit familiar with Adem Bona's game. Yes, he's a 6'8" center, but he's very athletic. He's a great lob threat, and he's very switchable on the perimeter for a big man. And playing on a team behind Joel Embiid means you're going to get some opportunity given Joel Embiid's health issues. Adem Bona is a player who doesn't need a lot of minutes to contribute meaningful stats. He can be a block anchor, posting one of the higher block percentages of as a young player. And if Joel Embiid never fully recovers, Adem Bona could have a Daniel Gafford type trajectory where he only needs 20 minutes per game to provide top 100 value. And we've seen it at the end of the season where Adem Bona is a top 100 player over the last month. So someone who's very exciting and doesn't need a lot of minutes is something that I would buy if he ever got that opportunity to be a solid rotation player getting those minutes.
Well, there you have it. That's 15 players discussed from our most recent Dynasty rank update. Again, make sure to check the comments below. We will have the links to everything you need. Our website, our Patreon, our Discord server, all the social medias that you can follow us on. It'll all be linked in the description below. So thank you for tuning in today. That will do it for us, and we'll catch you guys again next time.